Welcome to the RET system and the secret structure presentation. We're going to talk about these 7 frameworks here in a second, but first let's get to, of course, the disclaimer. What I want to talk about is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not investment advice. Legally, I don't know if you know this, but you got to leave this on here for 5 seconds. Okay, here's what I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about quick rich, easy money, Forex basics. I'm not going to talk about any of these traditional methods, and I'm not going to boast how awesome my life is and how wonderful everything's going. And so, who is this for? 1, people who have taken a few courses, trading sometime. I would say at least 1 to 2 years, at least. You don't have to, but you've made your rounds with the methods that are out there. You trade on the MT4 platform. You've been trading, but you still feel like there's something missing, but can't quite put your finger on it. And it's also for people who need a structure to work off of. Those are the two people who it fits. What to expect? Who am I? A little bit about me. Overview of my story and how I got started. I'm going to show you the RET system and the secret structure. Full transparency, I'm not going to hide anything from you. I know what it's like to buy courses and be disappointed. There's going to be an offer to purchase. You don't have to buy it. Like, if it's not your thing, don't buy it. And then I'll talk about the future of reversal edge trading. Okay, a little bit about me. So that's my ugly mug right there. My name is Preston Hardesty. I've never stopped stuffing my face. I've lived in low-income housing most of my teenage years. That's me, my mom, my brother. I got my GED in 2007, and then music certificate from Berklee College of Music Online in 2009. I kind of wandered after the certificate, and then got into SEO around 2014 and Forex around the same time, hoping I could do both. But since I'm an introvert and don't like to talk to people very much, that hint the recluse trader, I decided to go with Forex. I got started in about October, I believe it was. No, March in 2014. I've been at it for 7 years. And during that time, I've purchased multiple courses, anywhere from $49 to $2,000. Multiple Forex signal services from $49 to $139 a month. WhatsApp, Telegram, failed. Multiple trade copier services, $97 a month. Percentage given from the account the person was trading on. That ended in losses. New subscription to Squawk, $297 a month. 2 funded accounts. One was a futures account. I've purchased EAs online. That was in the beginning. I had my own EAs built. I've taken 2,000 plus trades, more than that, but that's what's stated on the website and the brokerage statements. Trading losses, 12 grand in trading losses. Courses purchased, 8 grand in purchased courses. Coding services, license, and source code purchases, that comes to like 7 grand. So I've been there. I've done it. Like anything that's out there, I've done it. There's a quote on the next one, and it just ties in with my whole journey through Forex. And the quote is, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And if anyone's been down this road and has kept at it, they understand that trading is its own thing, its own beast, I guess you could say. And if you don't understand trading, it can be more emotional and psychological than anything else. So my story has been like this to the right here, where it says success. That's mine, definitely mine. Before we get into it, there's 3 things to think about: pattern recognition, anticipate reversals, and best possible entry. As we go through the whole presentation, as I show you the 7 frameworks and the bonuses, those are the 3 things I want you to think about. Okay, let's get started. By now, you've probably already guessed it. What I'm going to be talking about is indicators. How I say indicators are tools. Doctors have tools, dentists have tools, plumbers have tools, engineers have tools, mechanics have tools, and traders have tools, and tools are indicators. When used correctly, there are strengths and weaknesses to the indicators. The first one I'm going to talk about is Heikin Ashi. It's clean candle reading. When it's Japanese candles, I think it's messy. Safe candle entry, knowing momentum is on your side. And the weakness of these candles is the lag time on bullish and bearish activity. The pair I use, and I'm going to demonstrate on through the whole entire thing, is CAD CHF. I chose this pair because it's not an easy pair to trade and or even look at, because it's messy. There's a lot of volatility, and it's just difficult to read sometimes, and I felt like it was a better pair to pick rather than cherry pick any of the other charts that I could have used to make it look amazing, so to speak. And so we'll get into basically why I like Heikin Ashi is the pattern to it. And as we go through this presentation, as I start showing this, we're going to stack multiple things together to build a structure, and there'll be multiple levels of confluence in order to make a good trading decision. And so with Heikin Ashi, it's just one piece of the puzzle. And why I like it is because you get a bunch of green candles, you get a purple candle, price moves down. That's the pattern. It's not perfect, but it gives me personally something to work off of. And if you notice these wicks, so this candle right here was really high, this couldn't break that high, this couldn't break that high, then finally it lost momentum, price went down. There is a negative side to Heikin Ashi, and that is, so as we're right here, so price moves down, stops, closes at almost the same exact spot. You can call those railroad tracks if you want to call it that. Opens and then moves up. One of 2 things happen. One, this is a 20 pip candle right here. So we're missing out on 20 points. But on the same side, in order to get into a, I would say, safer trade, so to speak, what I usually do is wait till this closes, and then I would get it on the open of this one. So it would be the third one. That way I know momentum's in my favor. And preferably, I want to see a square bottom. I'm particular about the trades I get in. I want to see a square bottom. If it's not square, there's other things to look at. I'll use indicators in order to make a decision whether I want to get in or not. And the other part is that we have a tendency to miss out. So I made a final high. So this is already going bearish. And then, so we miss. That's one of the problems, is that there's a lag time, and we miss out on better entries. But there's a solution for that later on in the presentation. Other than that, that's it for Heikin Ashi. Alright, The next indicator we're going to talk about is high-low, and it falls in the category of pre-reversal setups. The strengths for this indicator: pre-candle setup, candle setup confirmation, entry setup. It helps us to avoid high wick stop outs. If you've been trading any amount of time, you've probably seen it. You get into a trade, a few candles later, price spikes up really high and then turns around and moves in the opposite direction. False breakouts, liquidity traps, those are kind of float in the same category. It's basically the sharks, I guess you could say, and or banks trying to get liquidity. I don't know that 100% of the time because I don't have facts, but it's talked about they need liquidity, and the only way to do it is to take out stops and sucker people into trades, and it does happen. And so this helps with filtering out basically being the sucker, because I don't want to be the sucker, and I'm sure you don't. Trend direction: higher highs, higher lows. False signals, especially range bound, sideways price action. Recalculates. Continues to move higher and lower as price moves in either direction. As a new high approaches, it will move up with that. And so there's just some things to be aware of. Okay. What I'm looking for is basically, I'm looking at the wicks. This made a final high. I know you can't really see it. Let me zoom in a little bit. This made a final high. The next candle to the right of it couldn't break that high, and that one couldn't break it, and finally we get a candle, which is, this would have been a decent setup candle. I would have stacked other indicators together, and then price moves down, and that would have been okay. And you'll notice that with your wicks. If you just look at your wicks, like this made a final high, this one couldn't break it, this one I believe is higher than it. Next one, the indicator would have been on this one, and then what happened was I would have got in on this trade on this candle because I like the setup. Prices looks like it's moving, becoming exhausted, run out of steam, and so I would have got in here. However, my stop would have been right here. What happens? Price moves up, like I was talking about earlier, false breakouts, and then what happens? Price finally rolls over. So I would have been stopped out of that trade and a little frustrated because it happened, but it was a little too early. And so that's why I use this to wait. There is false breakouts. We'll go to this area. So what happens here? It's sideways, right? And then slowly it starts to move down, 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 and then we get this big, huge candle. I hate huge candles. I really do. I'm particular how I trade in candle, big candles. If it's not relative, if the candles to the left of it aren't the same size as my entry candle, I won't get in. I'll hesitate. So what happens is it breaks down. People probably poured into this trade thinking it's a breakout trade. And what happens? Either stops were triggered, traders jump in. Now they have to sell their positions, meaning they have to buy them back, and then price moves up on them. And that's one of the reasons why I use it. It does give false signals, obviously, in a sideways market. I'm not really worried about that too much. It's just good to know what the strengths and weaknesses of the indicators are, and that's how I use it. It just gives me a little little slighter edge in the market, and confirmation. That's it for this indicator. Okay, the next indicator we're going to talk about is the channel, and it helps us to avoid certain areas on the chart. The strengths of it are identify choppy, sideways, price action. I'm sure you can do that already. Additional confirmation for trade setup, high probability trade setup when price moves outside the upper band. Use as profit target. Use for short-term currency price range. Recalculates. The weaknesses are it recalculates, so it looks better on price action. So when you go look at price action, it's like, oh man, this is great. But every indicator has its strength and weakness. So I just wanted to bring that out. Unreliable during strong up or downward moves. Looks messy on lower time frames. Okay. So whenever I go to my charts, I have this on all the time, this indicator, because I don't want to trade in the middle. I'm looking for open space. You've probably heard that term. I'm not sure. But basically, it's the space in between where price hasn't been in a long while. So this is open space. This is all open space. And so if I go to my charts and price is sitting right here, it's not a bad area. I would prefer it down here. But if price is in between these two bands, I don't trade inside of it. Ever. Ever. Because that's how I filter out the noise. It helps me filter out good trades and bad trades. Also, there's two different bands on here. This one's set at 2.0, the other one's set at 3.0. If you leave it at 3.0, you're going to get high probability trades, but you get fewer of them. If you put it at 2.0, you'll get more trades, but less quality, if that makes sense. If you go back on your charts and just examine it. Also, each currency pair moves moves a certain range, not like a daily range. All these currency pairs that we're looking at are 1 hour, because how I trade is usually if you get a 1 hour candle, you'll get consecutive 1 hour candles right behind it, and it'll be like a short-term move. So what I do is it's about 50 pip range in between these two candles, in between the top band and the bottom one. And on the other one, for your other currency pairs that move a lot more, this one's about 80 to 90 points. 50 points is good for me. 40, 30's not bad, but it gives you kind of an idea of the range of this currency pair and what it could possibly move, if that makes sense. If it does move. I use it as a profit target if price comes down into it, and I stack the other indicators together, and it's just another confirmation. So one of the things is unreliable during strong move. If we look at this move right here, it's way outside. It just doesn't look right, and you'll see that it becomes unreliable, and you have to use another indicator in order to place a judgment or a decision on whether you're going to get in or not. And that's basically it for this indicator. I have it on my charts. I prefer three lines, one in the middle. I don't like this little gap in between. It's either the 2.0 or 3.0, but that's just preference because I'm particular on like aesthetics and how things look. But the main thing is it helps filter out the market noise. I do not trade anything in between this, and I'm looking for open space that price hasn't been in a while, and usually get a reversal. It's not 100%. It's the markets. They can be unpredictable, and price always has the final say. And that is it for this indicator. Thank you. The next indicator is MA1 and MA2. They're different than the regular MAs that are out there or used in trading. And how I use them is short-term trend lines. Once again, we're on a 1 hour time frame. Trade exits and confirmation of trade direction. Weakness is unreliable in choppy, range-bound sideways markets. Obviously, you can see that on the chart. And so, how I use them is whenever price closes, would say above them or below them, it would be just a confirmation. And if you notice how far away these candles are from the first one and the second one, it's almost like a mini channel. And what happens is that price will eventually cross over into them, and then to me that just gives me an extra signal of price is probably going to reverse or change direction, and I probably need to get out. You'll see that multiple times, is that you'll get a candle and they'll kind of start gradually moving their way into the inside of it, because I don't want to. One of the things I don't want to do a bunch of trend lines on my chart. I would say a lazy trader, and I want these things to do the work for me. I don't want to do a top-down approach. The 1 hour time frame just seems to be the sweet spot. That or a 4 hour seems to be the sweet spot for short-term trend direction. That's kind of a vague term, but these kind of do the work of the trend line for me, and I can make a decision once price crosses above or below it. And they're not perfect, as you can see. When price is going sideways, they don't become relevant, but when price actually does move down, they're usable. That's basically it for this these indicators. Okay, so here we are with RET momentum, and the strength of this indicator is it anticipates reversals, identify candle turning point, trade management, exits. Trade management is kind of a loose term. I use it more as to exit a trade. Weakness, unreliable and choppy range sideward markets. Yeah, as you can tell, when market goes sideways, doesn't really give a good read. So what we're looking for is that you see it. Notice that it's at the bottom. This dot is at the bottom of this candle, and as price starts to develop and candles start to close, it'll slowly start to creep up, and then now it's on top of it. That on top just sits right on the body. It's just a subtle clue of probably almost like a maybe I probably should get out of it, possibly. And that's it. I mean, that's the simplest. It's not perfect, but it's just an added confirmation of possibly getting out of the trade. And so as you see, these ones, it doesn't matter about the color change. The color change is just to make it simple and color coordinated. The main thing is how it's sitting underneath the candle, and as you see it start to work up, and now it's sitting on top. And then, as we know, indicators lag. So as this candle is developing, this ball, this momentum is starting to either change color, and that just gives us a clue to exit. So the sooner we can get exit out of a trade, the better. and you can see the pattern over and over. It's hard with this, it's hard to demonstrate perfectly with this, but if you go through your charts and look at it, you'll see the subtle signal that this gives, and that's why I have it on my charts. And that's it for this indicator. The next indicator is exhaustion. The strengths are anticipate reversals, identify exhaustion, divergence, trade management, exits, and profit targets. The weakness, false signal when prices becoming exhausted and unreliable on lower time frames. The lower time frame part is not necessarily true. It can be used as a added confirmation, but since the price action's erratic, the indicator has a tendency to be a little more erratic on a lower time frame. Okay, the purpose of this, or what I'm looking for, is right now is where the trend line's at. Not trend line, but horizontal line. Or vertical line. Apologies. Is as price goes outside this black line, it's a clue. It's a signal to say, hey, price could reverse. Even though all the candles are bearish, if you go back on your charts and see, which goes into the pattern recognition, is that we're trying to anticipate the move before it happens. And so this indicator helps with that. And as you see, if you keep going on charts, this is close. It won't line up perfectly, and sometimes you won't even get price will reverse, but the line will never go outside either band, and that's just the way it is. On this instance, it's still green, obviously, but it's starting to lose steam. And what do we see? It's close. If it's close to it, close is good enough. And price moves down, and we'll stack other indicators to confirm and get in the trade and take it. There's also divergence. So as you see, this is making a higher high, and these technically price is moving lower. Here, price is kind of moving higher a little bit, but this is showing that it's moving down. Profit targets, if you're in a trade and price goes outside the band, either band, you can exit and just kind of use it for clues to get out. That's it for this indicator. The next indicator is fast and slow bias. Level 2 profit biases, we use it for pre-reversal setups. The strengths of the indicators: anticipate reversal, I know I'm beating that in the ground. Trade management, pullbacks, divergence, profit targets, confirmation of trade direction, re-entries, and exits. Weaknesses: exaggeration on short price moves, false signal on strong upward and downward moves. So where the vertical line is at, got it right this time. So what we're looking for is, so one of these is set to a 5-minute and one's set to a 15. We're on a 1-hour time frame. It was the best option I could come up with. That way the lines weren't so squiggly all over the place, because if you just drag and drop them, these lines are messy, and this is the best setting I could find to make it so they do what they're supposed to do and look as aesthetically pleasing as possible. And so what we're looking for is that the one set for 5 minutes is going to come up closer. It's going to come to this first line, level 1, and then you got level 2. And so what we're looking for is when the pattern is when price comes up to this level, usually price reverses. And so similar to the exhaustion, it's early, and that's okay. There'd be a close on this candle, that price was down here. A few candles later, we get a green one and price moves up. And as you see, this movement here, this goes into the how it exaggerates a little bit. So this price move is not very big, but it looks, I wouldn't say big on this indicator, but it just kind of exaggerates a little bit, and that's fine. And so I use this. It's probably one of my favorite indicators out of all of them, just because I use it as profit targets. And so the pattern is price comes down here. We know it's probably going to reverse. We just don't know when. There's the close of the candle right up here. I would never get on that. It's a huge candle. But as we see, price moves up about right around here. We would have missed out on a little bit. The next indicator will help us stay in the trade longer. But I would rather take my, how many points? 16. Not even worth it. On this pair? No. Not even worth it. But, and as you see, the pattern repeats. Sometimes, there's no perfect example. What will happen is if it's a strong down move, these lines will stay down here for long periods of time. And then in my mind, I kind of want a clean trend. Like, I want this whole thing to be perfect, but it's not black and white. And so, as you can see, we get a green candle. We get a green candle again, but nothing comes out. I kind of want the line to come out of that. Kind of just gives me an added confirmation. And so there it is right there. We would stack other indicators with it. And then, as you can see, right about here on this candle, possibly an exit. So from here to there, it's about 40 points. That's not bad. But we left, what, 20 extra points? That's fine. Trading's not perfect. I'll take something over nothing. But that's kind of it. Sometimes there's pullbacks in the trade. There's some divergence going on here, because here we get a pullback, and then there's a reason why there's two lines. One's going to be more reactive, and then there's another one that's not going to be so reactive. And so how I see it is that sometimes, like for this example, price is moving up, but on this other line it doesn't even show. So there's a little bit of divergence. If I'm making sense, I hope I'm making sense. So this is moving down. This is moving down, kind of like a little hiccup, so to speak, in price, and it didn't really come back up. It moved down, so you get, divergence in that sense. And then sometimes you can get on a re-entry. For example, here. So price moved down. If you're good at reading price action, those have been read entries to continue it up, and then follow the same pattern. Price moves down. Eventually it's going to come back down here. I hope I made sense on that. I know it's a little long-winded. That's it for this indicator. The next indicator is the trend decipher. And the strengths are read trend direction easier, especially when the charts are difficult to read. Identify pullbacks, identify trend continuation, and you can use it to re-enter. The weaknesses are it recalculates, and these lines will change color as the candle is developing. And so I picked this part on the chart because with the other indicators, they're kind of used for short-term trading in a sense, like short moves, 50 points, 100 points. And sometimes the trend goes on for a long time. And the example is what we're seeing now. So price moved down, pulled back, went sideways, broke down, pulled back, sideways, moved down, sideways, ugly price action, moved down, sideways, kind of moved down, back up again. And so trying to read that on the chart on those other indicators is kind of challenging. And so the reason why I like this one is because, one, it's not so reactive to what price is doing, meaning that you get 3 green bars here. The price didn't really move that much, but we're still in a downtrend. And so you'll see more purple in a downtrend. And if you're on your charts and you're not sure, you can make this thing as big as you want, just to get a little, because when it's full out like this, you can get the subtleties of the histogram and how the volume is calculated. But when it's flat like this, you can't really tell. So that's why this one's on top on the stacking of the indicators. But back to my point, you'll see that if you're unsure, this is why I have this one on there, is because sometimes it's hard to read a trend. And let's say you want to get in to short it, you can use this as added confirmation and say, yeah, I'm going to get in. Usually I wait for 2 of these. I want at least two purples before I get into the trade. Yeah, I know, it's just something weird. Or 2 greens, one or the other. Because if you go back on your charts, usually you'll have two greens, and they don't really mean nothing. And so this is what I use if I'm not sure about the trend or what direction it's going in, because there's deep pullbacks within a trend. This is basically an uptrend here, but there's a lot of pullbacks, a lot of them, and so there could be head fakes. And that's basically it for this one. There's nothing to about it. It just helps identify the trend easier if you're unsure, and it's added confirmation. Now that we've seen all the indicators individually, here's what it'll look like on your chart. Seems like a lot of indicators for some people. They may think, hey, I don't need that many, and that's okay. There's some variations later on that I'll show you. Right now I'm going to walk you through kind of what to look for. We are back in August. As you can see, this currency pair is not the most favorable currency pair to trade, and so it's a very challenging chart to trade, if anything. However, right where the vertical line is at, we'll just follow it along. So we get our final high on the candle that I'm on. and we move over. That one didn't break. Next one didn't break. Now the dot is above it, the momentum dot. Down here at the bias indicators, they are level 1 is up there, and then level 2. I'm more focused on level 1 more so than level 2, just because it's going to react quicker, and I want to be able to anticipate the move sooner than later. And so, and now we find that we get a Heikin Ashi color change. The dots above it. We got the exhaustion, and that exhaustion line's outside the band up top. And then what do we see? Price moves down. And you go through your charts, as you'll see, it happens again. The dots below, the level 1 bias is close to level 1. Exhaustion's not there, but it's close. I wouldn't have taken this trade because it was in the middle. I want open space. I want it in a fresh spot. That's me particularly. However, everything lines up, candle up, and then the process repeats. On the next go around, the dot doesn't come above it. It's close. That's fine. Close is good enough. I mean, it is the markets. Nothing moves perfectly. Where one of these indicators doesn't quite, or it like fails, or doesn't do exactly what it's supposed to do, or what we're trying to look for, it's okay. That's why we have multiple indicators on here, to make sure that we're just, it's like a checklist. Okay, this one didn't line up. Well, let me check this one. Okay. And so the dot's not really there. The bias is there. The exhaustion's not there. And then we get a candle. It closes inside the MA, and down it goes. And it repeats over and over and over again. Unfortunately, this chart is really bad, as you can see. So, if anything, I would either trade this on a 4-hour time frame at best, or not at all. But I picked it just to be fair and transparent about the whole reversal edge process. And that's it. This is the classic template. This is the classic thin template. It's the only difference is that the lines are thinner, making it easier. That way the indicators aren't the main focus. You can see more of the price action. This is included in the main bundle, and that's it. All the lines are thinned out, making it simpler, easier, and I think cleaner when reading the charts. The next template is the simple thick template, and basically the dots aren't on there. It's just one MA, one bias. Everything else stays the same. And yeah, it's for those who don't want a lot of indicators on the charts, just want a few. I mean, there's options here. It's not black and white. You're the one who prefers, I mean, when it comes down to it, I stare at my charts, you stare at your charts, and you're going to want certain things on your chart versus what I want on my chart. But the point is that there's options, and it's not like, hey, you got to do it this way. There's multiple ways to skin the cat, so to speak, and this is just one of the templates, and this is included as well. And that's it. Alright, this is the Simple Thin template. Before I got on the recording, I was just thinking Simple Thin. It should be like the name of a cookie or something. Anyway, basically it's the same as the thick version. All the lines are simplified. They're thinner. Not the lines aren't simplified, but they're thinner. You'll probably notice I'm not eloquent with my words. I don't like to talk that much because I just don't, and I fumble with my words, if you haven't noticed. And so with this one, it's just they're just thinner, so it makes reading the charts simpler, cleaner, and that's it. Okay, so this is the M1 Money in Minutes scalp template. As you can see, I would never scalp on this currency pair. It is so bad and just inconsistent. I like to see fluidity when it comes to price action. Just a consistent pattern, smooth. But the same rules apply. The bias is down here. The exhaustion's out. The dot's below. Green candle. Price moves up. Obviously, it'd be challenging to scalp on this pair. I would prefer to scalp, but since I'm in the US, the brokers' spreads are not the best. And so, but I know there's people out there that want to scalp. And as you can see, I would never scalp on this pair just because it's inconsistent. But this is what the template's going to look like. It's been slightly adjusted to lower time frame, and that's it. That's for the 1 minute. This is the Money in Minute scalp template. This is a M5 time frame, and the same rules apply. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but level 1 bias is up top, the dot is above, made a final high, you get a close of the Heikin Ashi, bearish Heikin Ashi. The exhaustion's above here, price moves down, and it repeats over and over and over again. This is like the nicest spot on the chart that price actually was consistent. And as you notice, the reason why I have the channels on here is because it filters out the noise. That was kind of one of the things I talked about earlier, but now that you can see it, and that's it for the scalp template. Now we're into the bonuses. So this is bonus 1, indicator bundle. The first indicator in that bundle is the stat. And the reason why I wanted to create the stat indicator is because I kind of want to know how many trades were possible. And so if you look at the left hand corner, it says bullish setups 12, bearish setups 10. And the dates that you can change the dates on how it runs, and then you can change the band deviation. Okay, so I've already ran it, and how it works is based off the channel. And so if price closed, let's say where my cursor's at, if price closed outside the band, it has to close outside the band, and then let's say 3 or 4 bars later there was a green Heikin Ashi, it'll print an arrow, and that arrow is a bullish arrow. And the same is opposite. So now one of these candles closed outside the top band, and now this Heikin Ashi closed or changed color, and then it moves down, and it keeps repeating over and over again. And as we know, the channel is looks better on past price action, so it's gonna look amazing. If I just threw the arrows on here and be like, hey, look at the trades you missed out on. But in all fairness, I have the bias indicator on here, and I have the high-low, and price action doesn't lie. So we just stacked these indicators on there to confirm what was possible. And so the point of it is just to get an idea of the trades, to look at price action, kind of study the charts a little bit, and to know how many trades I could have got, possibly. Maybe it's a nerdy thing that I'm into, but as you can see here, we get a candle setup, but that's not the ideal candle setup. Even though it changed color, the bias is up here, move down, and then back down again, and obviously we see price actions just sideways. This pair is just not that good to be demonstrating on, but whatever. I'll shut up about that. Okay, that is it for this indicator. This is indicator 2 of the bonus 1 indicator bundle, and this is high-low, HA alert. And how it works is where my cursor's at. So when it makes a final high, and then there's a color change, and the candle closes, it's going to print this arrow. And this arrow, you can have a push notification. So since I like to trade 1 hour time frames, I want to get it on a 1 hour time frame, and I want to get pinged to know that possible sell trade set up, rather than have to stare at my charts all the time. And so as you can see, it'll make a final. It always has to do with Heikin Ashi color change because there's a lag in time, and I want that lag in time. If it was just a bearish candle, that could happen as price is moving down. Here, I can't move it, but as you can see off the left hand side, you could get that if it's just a bullish candle, you can get an arrow and it'd be a false signal. And so it's the same for buy alerts. So obviously you see this final low, and then once it makes a final low and this candle closes, it'll send a push notification or alert, or just display on the chart. And so there's a look back feature. I have it set at 3 bars because sometimes it takes a few candles before this before the color changes on Heikin Ashi. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5, and then finally. But I have it on there. It can be adjusted. And so there's buy alert mode and sell alert mode. And on here, so let's look at it like riskiest, riskier, risky. So this has the most risk. This has kind of in between the risk. I'll explain that here in a second. And then this is the safest, or risky. And so basically it's final low, bullish candle. That happens quite a bit. But the option's there. If you really want to get in, like right as it's turning, rather than waiting for that Heikin Ashi to turn, because the lag time in candles versus Heikin Ashi and how they develop. I usually do set it on color change because that seems to be consistent, or if you want to put them both. So it'd be a final low, it'd be a bullish candle, and a color change. So you just stack in. So it's like, okay, price does want to go in that direction. And the same for sell mode. It's just the opposite. High and bearish candle, high, color change, high, bearish candle, and color change. Hit OK. And as you can see, you can go back through and look at where some of these candles would have been. And that's it for this indicator. Okay, so this is the third indicator in the bonus one indicator bundle, is the high-low HA MTF alert. And so since we know how the high-low works and how it changes, how based upon a final high and then the candle, HA candle, changes color. Now, when I was getting started in trading, or not started, but as I continued and progressed through trading, I ran into situations where I'd get into a trade and it would automatically pull back on me. And so I'm somewhat obsessed about getting the best possible entry, and this indicator does just that, ideally. So basically what you see on the line is a buy signal and a sell signal on a 5-minute time frame. So it's set up as a 5-minute, but it displays on a 1-hour time frame, and it's only one bar. And so if I'm going to drop down to a 5-minute here in a few seconds, and we're going to see where these lines are at to verify that they're on a 5-minute. And this happens in real time. And at the end of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset this indicator, and all these lines are going to disappear. And then as price continues, if we zoom out, we see some here. My charts have been closed in between this time, that's why we don't see nothing, but there is lines on here. And so basically this is the buy right down here. So obviously as price is developing, that's a buy signal. Price is pulled back on this candle, and this is a sell signal. And as you can see, as price moves up, you see a lot more sell signals, because obviously when price is moving, it pulls back on a lower time frame. And so there's some thoughts of creating an indicator to re-enter, basically. And as you see, when price goes down, you'll see a lot more green lines. Okay, so I'm going to pause it, and we're going to be on a 5-minute time frame, and we'll look at the lines from there. All right, so we're back. We're on a 5-minute time frame, and here's what we're looking at. So you can't see it, but it's the high-low. So obviously price made a final low somewhere around here, and then the color changed of the Heikin Ashi, and we see price moved up. Now this is the first pullback, so it finally made a final high. This is the first pullback. That's why we see the purple one, and it continues on and on. Sometimes we get a green one, but most of the time you're going to see the pullbacks. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to update this. I just have to kind of think through it a little bit. And what I want to do is say this is the pullback, and it paints green. So I want it to look back and be like, oh, okay, there's a line here, and then when price this color changes, it'll paint a green line. So now, yes, we did get a pullback, but now we can re-enter. so it's possible to scale in to the trade, if that makes sense. So we get a low, we get a green one, price moved up, okay, not a big deal. So we get a low, we already got a green one, and just keep that going for the however price wants to move. And so that's it for this indicator. It's probably one of my favorites, and to get the best possible entry, you want to reduce risk as much as possible and maximize the profits. Alright, I'm back, and I forgot to do the thing I said earlier. As the lines paint live, and I'm going to open up the indicator. Don't have to click on anything, just got to hit OK, and what you're going to see is the lines are going to disappear. That's how you know it's not repainting. They happen live. So now all that information's gone. That's it. Alright. This is the SRP levels. I want you to observe, this is part of still the bonus one, indicator bundle. I want you to observe where the arrows are at, where the price action has happened. So back in November, I know I'll scroll through the chart just to verify, but I'm somewhat lazy. I want the indicators. So I was in a program or a course that gave me levels, and you can mark up your chart with levels all over the place: weekly, monthly, daily, 4 hour, 1 hour. And so it takes a lot of work, but I don't like to do unnecessary work. I want to find something that's consistent, I can rely on, and it works, if that makes sense. There's already enough to trading as it is. Let's remove some of the nonsense that is out there. And so my point being is that I know people like levels. I like levels myself. Levels are important, and price does move towards and away from levels. So as you can see on the chart, these arrow locations, it just seems like regular price action, right? Okay, I'm gonna go to the next chart. Now this is this is preset 1 of the SRP levels. As you can see where the arrows are at, price either hesitated towards it, and that's what price does. It either hesitates towards it, like coils around it, or overshoots it. These levels aren't like perfect, but they're pretty darn consistent. And there's something about these levels, like I can't move them. Once the indicator's on the chart, they're not moving ever. And so where the arrows are at, so price moved down, obviously off this level, and then price pulled back up into this level, blew through this one. The market closed right here. Is that coincidence? I don't know. Now pulled back. Now it's been coiling around this for a while. And so let's say I was in a trade and I get my setup. I know price is probably going to move towards this level. And as you can see, it keeps touching it, touching it, touching it. Moves down. Doesn't quite make this one. Pulls back up close to it. And then finally pushes back down to make it. Pulls back. And we can look. You can also do support and resistance. You know. I'm sure you know that. So obviously overshot. Went sideways. Came back. Pulled back. And it keeps going. So whenever the reason why I call it profit targets is because if I was getting in on this trade right here, I probably know that price is going to come there, more than likely. And as you can see here, they coil around it. It just doesn't want to move away from it. Alright, so on the next one, I'm going to show another preset. And so just like the arrows, so now price moved down here, ranged for a while, broke out, pulled back. There's another level there. Broke through this one, pulled back, broke through, and kind of came up to this one. So levels are important, and I like levels, but I didn't want to have to put a bunch of trend lines on my chart. And so that's it. Obviously I don't know how to spell because it says Bonud. Anyway, all right. Bonus, this is the session indicator. It's part of the bonus one indicator bundle. And what's different about this is that it's down here in the small window. It's not on the charts, kind of making a distraction. And a few things I like about it. So obviously you have Pacific, Asia, Europe, and America. And the bottom is the best times to trade. So whenever there's crossover, more volume happening. And I still get confused by server time, GMT time, and my local time. I've never had it explained simple for me. So because server can be somewhere else, and my local time and GMT time don't really necessarily match up. And if you understand all that, how when news events come out can cause issues of either the news is early or late. Anyway, I'm rambling on. So what I had created was a button. And so this is your GMT time. Rather than have to input it on the inside the indicator, you can just select, let's say mine's -7 here where I'm at. I can select it, match it up with either my server time or my time, and kind of line everything up so it's correct. It's there if you want it, or need to use it, or don't have a session indicator. That's it. Alright, this is the last indicator in the bonus one indicator bundle. It's channel HA alert, similar to the high-low alert. It's based off a color change, but this one doesn't have a look back. And how it works is that the bands are separated. You got a top band, lower band, obviously. And so it's based off color change. So price has to close outside the band, and then as soon as they get a HA color change, it'll print an arrow, and then you can use it to push notification. The difference is that there's no other features to this like the HA or like the high-low, meaning that you don't have sell or buy options. Not saying that those can't be added to this indicator. And so that's what you see on the chart, is that once their candle closes outside the band, and then you get a color change of the Heikin Ashi and that candle closes, it'll print an arrow and create a push notification. So there's just different variations to an alert, and that's basically it. Now we're into the bonus 2 indicator bundle. This is the channel MTF HA alert lines. I put lines in there for some reason, I don't know why. Anyway, moving on. So this indicator hasn't been run for very long. It was running for a while, and then I shut down my charts, and now they've disappeared. So I've let it run for a little bit. There's a few lines on here, and similar to the high-low, it does the same thing. So these are 5-minute sell signals and buy signals. And with this indicator, it's going to be different than the high-low because it takes the bands almost act like a filter in a sense. So it removes the noise in the middle. With the high-low, you can get signals inside. So this, you'll have less signals with this one, but they'll be higher quality, so to speak. And since we already know how it works based off the high-low, I'm going to go down to a 5-minute time frame, and we're going to look at these lines and just see. Now we're on a 5-minute time frame, and as you can see, let me just open it up. So I picked a 5-minute time frame, but you can actually do a 15. That's more reasonable for an hour time frame, if that makes sense. If I did a 1 minute on here, it would clearly look extreme. But you can select multiple time frames if you want multiple signals. They're in here. The same for the high-low. I didn't go through that. I didn't really want to get into like the indicator settings and stuff on these videos, but I'm just letting that. I'm just putting that out there, just in case the question comes up. And so the channel, obviously price came up closed on a 5-minute, and then we get this signal, and then it repeated again. This candle obviously closed outside, and then we get the signal again, and then we don't get any signals for a while because price really has to move in order to get a signal. Then it happened again here. I think with the close. Now I've been kicking it around a little bit with how to get in again, like re-entry and or scale. So let's say we got this line here. I still haven't thought it all the way through, but I was thinking maybe if opposing candle, if there's a let's say a color change, it'll paint a line, and then it'll look back, and then if it sees a green line, it'll, once there's a color change again, it'll paint a pink line. You can change the color how you want, and then it kind of repeats the process. That way you're scaling in after the pullback's already finished, if that makes sense. So this one would be a little tricky to do. It wouldn't be the same as high-low, because if we do that, if you look in between here and all this sideways price action, it is messy. So we would have to limit the number of re-entries, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's it. So there's a green line here, pink line there. I'm going to open up the indicator, I hit OK, and the lines are going to disappear. Gone. It's similar to high-low, and they happen in live. And as you can see, this pair has a wide spread, and it's just sideways right now. Okay, that's it for this one. So the second indicator in bonus to indicator bundle is buy count. And a long time ago, when I purchased a course, and it was a live room levels, and he would display certain currency pairs and commodities, and in that he had an indicator. I think it was from the Bloomberg terminal, and it had a buy count and a sell count. So each candle would have a number behind it or next to it, depending on if it was going to be a sell count. So it'd be like 1, maybe skip candle, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then price would sell off. And it'd be the same for buy. I've always been somewhat fascinated by it. And so I've created my version of buy count and sell count. And the purpose of it is to just get higher quality trades and less of them. I mean, less trades, but higher quality. And so I've taken all the indicators and removed them off the chart and put them into one indicator. Well, I didn't, a coder did. And kind of slimmed them down. So 0 on the chart is exhaustion line outside the band. 1 is fast bias. 2 is exhaustion when it comes back inside the band. 3 is high-low, Japanese candle. So if it makes a final low and there's a let's say bullish Japanese candle, it's going to print a 4 or print a 3. And then if the color change on the high-low or high-low HA color change, it'll paint a picture. Not a picture. It'll paint a number. And then the MA are MA1 and then trend decipher. So if you want to look at it like this, so these 3 are basically pre-entry. These are confirmation entry, 3 and 4, and then these are trend direction, so to speak, confirmation, and then price moves. And as you can see, obviously to the right hand side, where my cursor's at, it's obviously, this is in a downtrend, strong downtrend, and obviously there's head fakes there. I have a 2 candle exit, so if I get into a trade and I see 2 consecutive Heikin Ashi candles, I'm out of the trade. Sometimes 1, depending how big it is. And that's as simple as it gets. Or if price is moving sideways for a long time, let's say 4, 5, 6 hours, I'm out, because it's not going anywhere. I want to get into a trade, have it move, and get out. And so with this, the point of it is to have them cluster. As you can see, there's a cluster here, a cluster here, and price moves up. And you can see it over and over. 0 and 2 will print twice. Everything else will print once, meaning the numbers. And the next part is the sell count. It's the same thing, but for sell. I would recommend doing buy or sell, not both, because you're going to get numbers all over the place, and it'll be a little confusing unless, I don't even know if you can change the color. So it looks something like this. Can you change it? Yeah, font. You can change the color, but it's only one color. So yeah, that is the sell count, buy or sell count indicator. Okay. I say okay at the beginning. I don't know why. This is the 3rd indicator and bonus 2 indicator bundle, and this is the art channel MTF lines. I know some people out there probably don't like bands on the chart just because they're messy. So I had this one created so I can have lines on the chart, and I wanted to know where the lines were on multiple time frames, because I prefer trading on the 1 hour and just kind of getting an idea of where the bands were at on another time frame. And so as you can see, H1 is the red, M30 is aqua, and then M15 is gray. These will move over time. They're not set. As price moves, these will move up or down. But I'm going to pause it, and we're going to go to a 15-minute chart, and we'll see how these lines look. what I've done is put the channel on the chart. As you can see where the lines are at on the channel, they match up. Now we're going to go to a 15. See where the gray lines are at? Now you can kind of get a gauge of where not to trade in. I don't like to trade in between the 1 hour. I want price to move either down close to this line or close to this one before I make a decision. And so if you don't like the lines on the chart, this is a cleaner version. And now, or the bands on the chart, because it can be a little noisy, I guess, messy on the charts. These make it simple and clean. This indicator is called Virtual Trader, and the story behind it was that, okay, so I was telling people about kind of like investments, and they wouldn't get it, and I didn't particularly like the strategy tester, and so I wanted an indicator that would give me a rough estimate what percentage I can get, but it would paint trades, like open and close trades, on the front of the chart, and then display a percentage up at the top, kind of on past price action. Not perfect, but it's good to study the chart, to look at what price has done. And I wanted something to show somebody, say, hey, look, and for myself to say, cool, I could have made 30% if I took those trades. Why didn't I take those trades? What happened? Or 40%, whatever. But the bigger picture for me is that since I have this and I have a rough idea of what percentage is possible, my head starts to think. And so big picture for me is that any business, you want to kind of have numbers to go with what you're doing. Let's say you have a restaurant and it's like $30 a table. That's average spin that someone's going to buy, and you get 100 people in. And then it's kind of, you look at that and you do the math on that, and you're like, okay, I can make about this much. I need to make about this much in order to stay in business. And so for this, it's kind of the same idea, but a little different. But what I want to do is create my own prop firm and have people trade my money for me. And this is kind of the indicator that kind of gave me the fuel to kind of get excited about what was possible in making money in trading. And so I'll get into the indicator right now. Story's done. With this, I'm glad it's happening, because the indicator doesn't, sometimes if you use this indicator, it's kind of wonky. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that, meaning that if you go to your chart and you use this, or you come back to your chart, because my chart was closed and it opened and there's nothing up at the left hand screen, that's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to run it. I won't go through all the I'll describe how it closes and what it does, but we're running, I'm going to change the date. We're going to run it December 1st to, obviously not October, so the 29th. We're going to run it, see what it does. And so what it does, if you look at the left hand screen, it's a $10,000 account. We're trading standard lots, and it'll tell you what trades we're at, when they're open, when they're closed, how many points were possible. And so how it trades is that the channel, it's based off the HA color change channel, and the top band, so price has to come out the very solid line on the top band, and then close. And as price moves down, once it reaches the dotted line on the bottom side, it closes the trade. And then the reverse is for a buy trade. A buy trade, candle has to close, color change, price moves up. Once it hits the dotted line, it closes the trade out, and it repeats over and over again. And so, as you see other indicators on this chart. And the purpose of that is to confirm whether these were legit trades or not. Meaning that the bias isn't close, this is up here, and then price, that's a bad one because that's a buy trade. And that would have been a losing trade, probably that one right there. And so let's use this one right here. So price moved down, it opened a trade, got out here, but the bias is here. And then the high low is right here. So that might not have been a legit trade. I probably wouldn't have taken that. But you can go back and study your chart and see how these indicators how they complement each other, and how maybe they wouldn't have been a trade, or a trade you would have got in, or maybe if you held on to the trade longer. I noticed that when I go back in price, I would never traded that, but it ended up by working out when price finally moves in a direction. So that's the virtual trader indicator. One more thing with this one is that I'm gonna close it down a little bit. So if you refresh it, it'll multiply the numbers. Okay, that's obviously false information. We don't want that. So you just open it up, click on it, and it'll reset itself. And sometimes it's not perfect. I've tried to reach out to the encoder with updating it, and I got ghosted. And so I just deal with the slight wonkiness of the indicator. But other than that, that's it for this. The next indicator we're going to talk about is the trend decipher line. Instead of having the histogram version of the trend decipher, this is a line. It's the same indicator, but it's a line version of it. And for some of those who don't like the histogram because it's, I don't know, too noisy to look at, there's a line version of it, and it's, as you can see, pullbacks, continuation, pullback, continuation. And I'm going to show you right now this kind of a combo version of the two. So I'm going to open this up. So the line chart's sitting right on top of it. So it kind of smooths out the trend decipher histogram. And so that's all. There's nothing really to this. It's just a line version of the trend decipher histogram. Just options. Something different. Last but not least, indicator in the bonus 2 indicator bundle is the vertical line. And it's nothing special. All it is a line out with the charts. I had it created because to be used as a point of reference. Kind of bring attention back to what price action's doing, along with all the other indicators down in the indicator window. And that's it.